Justice League versus the Fatal Five. I was actually planning on skipping this one over because, well, it came out a while ago and I didn't know if it was worth it to do a review on it at this point, especially since we got the Batman and Ninja Turtles crossover movie coming up, which I will definitely be doing a video on. But I did get around to watching this, and not only is this pretty good, but unlike a lot of the other animated DC movies that I've been talking about and have been coming out, which share a universe, this one actually takes place in the continuity of the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited TV show. Specifically, it has ties to the episode Far From Home, which had a bunch of the characters traveling through time and help out a group of heroes in the future, and many of the characters from that episode appear in this movie. And on top of that, a couple of voice actors from the TV show reprised their roles, including Kevin Conroy, Susan Eisenberg, and George Newbern. And it's produced by Bruce Timm, who does consider it part of the original DC animated universe, even though there are some continuity issues. For one, where's Kara? Didn't she stay behind to bang that Brainiac kid or whatever? And he's in this movie, and he doesn't even mention her, and we don't see her at all, unless the events in the future in this movie take place before they go to the future to help them, and then I guess that timeline crosses over with a future point in time in the present timeline, and I hate time travel so much. Kilowog also shows up, and his design is clearly based on his design from the Green Lantern animated series, which I think also does have some loose ties to the DC animated universe, but was kept kind of vague, and he was voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson in this movie, who voiced him in the series, and I do remember Kilowog from the Justice League TV show being much different. He was a lot thinner and taller, and I believe he was voiced by Brad Garrett. So yeah, there are definitely some continuity issues, but I think at this point we'll just ignore those and just judge this movie for what it is. All you really need to know is that there are 3 villains from the future that show up to the present time and want to free one of their gang members who is imprisoned on Oa. But they're followed by a hero from the future named Starboy, who has the ability to manipulate matter. Unfortunately, he is on some kind of medication, and when he gets to the present time, he loses his medication, and it causes him to lose his memory, and he doesn't remember why he was there. We also meet a new Green Lantern named Jessica Cruz, who I'm not really familiar with. I'm sure she's in the comics or something, but this is the first time I'm seeing her. And when I first saw her, I was just kind of taken aback by the fact that there's yet another Green Lantern from Earth. So, exactly how many Green Lanterns are from Earth? This is like the 5th one that I'm aware of. How come there are so many human Green Lanterns? Why aren't there like a dozen other of some more powerful species as a Green Lantern? I'm sure their willpower is really good. Another character who has a pretty big role in this movie is Mr. Terrific, who had a pretty important role much later on in the series, but we didn't see him do a whole lot. He was mostly in command of the Watchtower and the rest of the League. So it's really cool that they actually took a character who didn't really do a whole lot in the series and actually gave them the spotlight for once. And we also got to meet Miss Martian, who I think a lot of people know through Young Justice, but I thought it was really cool that they have a version of her for the Justice League TV show. There's also a lot of references and cameos from other characters as well. There's a scene in Arkham in this movie because when Batman picks up Starboy and finds him confused and kind of crazy because he lost his memory, he gets locked up in Arkham, and he actually stays there for about 10 months. And I think one of the more odd parts about this movie is he befriends, of all people, Two-Face. I don't really know why they picked Two-Face for this. I guess maybe there is some, stretch you can make about this, like Two-Face has 2 personalities, and Starboy lost his memory, so they both have like a mind thing going on, and just, I don't know, it just seemed kind of odd to me. He wasn't even in it that long. The animation in this movie was great too, especially during the fight scenes. I mean, imagine Justice League Unlimited, but with maybe twice the animation budget. I love the villains in this movie. I believe we saw them in the episode Far From Home, but I haven't actually watched that in a while, so I can't remember. But they are a legitimate threat to the Justice League, and let me put it to you this way. When you can bring down Superman without kryptonite, you're definitely trouble. And it turns out he can bleed. I like the new heroes as well. Starboy was very interesting because, like I said, he came to the future, he lost his memory because he didn't have his medication, and throughout most of the movie he was either very lucid, like just with this blank stare on his face, just trying to absorb, what's around him, or he was just frantically trying to piece the information he knew together to try and remember why he was there in the first place. And they also established the fact that without his medication, there could be dire consequences. But Jessica Cruz is a really interesting character. At the beginning of the movie, they established that she went through a very traumatic event and has to go to therapy for it and has trouble, just generally doing things like leaving her house. And yet, she's a Green Lantern. Remember, the Green Lanterns are chosen for their willpower. And I think it's really cool that they have this character who went through something horrible, and yet the Ring still chose her. As if to say her ability to survive, her willpower to survive, rather, was enough for her to be part of the Corps. If I had to nitpick a few things, I think they could have did a little bit more with Miss Martian. Like, they established that she's sort of a League member in training, and she's following Batman around, who, by the way, her and Batman had a very good camaraderie going on, and I kind of liked it. But it seemed like the only reason she was there was because eventually they'd need someone to probe Starboy's mind and figure out what's going on. And that's about it. Like, you could have just had Jean do it. The only major gripe I have with this movie is, well, they built up Jessica Cruz a lot in this. And like I said, she's a really great character, but when they talked about her in the future, they made her out to be this sort of like messiah figure, like the savior of everyone. And while she did help out a lot with the final resolution of this movie, ultimately it was, without spoiling anything, someone else that actually had to, save everybody. And, they couldn't have done it without her, but the fact that they built her up so much felt a bit much. But I did really enjoy this movie, and I highly recommend you check it out, especially if you're a fan of the OG DC animated universe, because this will help maybe fill the void that's left after all these years. And I would love it if they do more movies like this. I know Batman and Harley Quinn, I guess, technically is part of that universe too, but this movie was way better than that. And I hope they do more movies like this. Like, maybe they can do something with a lot of the other heroes that didn't really get to do a whole lot in the TV show, and a lot of them didn't even have speaking lines, and some of them were pretty cool, but they didn't really have a lot to do because, there was such a big cast. Maybe they could even do a movie about the heroes from the future, because we really didn't get to know them very well, so that might be kind of cool. But I do hope this is the start of something big. Like, maybe every once in a while, we can return to the Justice League TV show. But that's all I got for Justice League versus the Fatal Five. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of it. My name is Rob, and have a wonderful day.